This course is sponsored by Comcast NBC Universal. We would like to thank Comcast NBC Universal for the generosity in making this course possible.
Hello, and welcome to the course Best Practices for Employer Support of National Guard and Reserve Members. I'm Bob Langle, Senior Director of Military and Veteran Affairs at Comcast NBC Universal. Comcast NBC Universal was a recipient of the 2017 Secretary of Defense Freedom Award for employer support of the Guard and Reserve. Prior to Comcast, I served over 20 years in the Army National Guard, so I'm very proud to be a part of this team. Let's start with why support of employees who are also Guard and Reserve members is an important topic for employers. About 1.1 million Americans serve in the National Guard and Reserves, comprising approximately 45% of the United States total military force. With such a large portion of our military having to balance civilian employment with military duty, it is critical for employers to actively support these employees. In order to provide effective support, National Guard and Reserve-friendly employers should have clearly defined policies and practices and must ensure their employees are knowledgeable regarding this topic. This isn't just an issue for management or HR, as the co-workers of military members should also understand why and how the company supports the service of its National Guard and Reserve employees. This course on best practices for employer support of the National Guard and Reserve is designed to help employers understand the importance of supporting National Guard and Reserve employees. It will also present several best practices that could be implemented in providing effective support. These practices are only recommendations, and it is understood that not all of these suggestions are applicable to every organization. Some modifications may be required to adjust to a company's unique business circumstances. In 2013, the VA conducted a comprehensive study regarding recruitment and retention of veterans and National Guard and Reserve members in the workplace. The scope of the study included surveys of employment practices and interviews of 245 businesses nationwide, including several Fortune 500 companies. The study yielded several recurring themes that businesses with successful programs used in supporting their National Guard and Reserve employees. Many of the practices we will discuss were derived from that study and can be broken down into the following categories: recruitment, policies, training, support during mobilization or deployment, family support, support for returning employees, and service recognition. The first step in supporting members of the Guard and Reserve is to implement effective recruiting. While many organizations recruit veterans, far fewer companies seek out members of the National Guard and Reserve. Best practices for effective recruiting include building relationships with local National Guard and Reserve commands, many of which would welcome opportunities to share information about job openings and hiring events. Companies should encourage current Guard and Reserve employees to assist with recruiting. Peer recruitment has been shown to be highly effective, and we all recognize that personal referrals provide some of our strongest candidates. Additionally, consider posting open positions on websites that focus on military community hiring, as well as attending military-focused job fairs in your area. You can find these resources at the Department of Labor's website or through some of the many fine nonprofit organizations that assist in Guard and Reserve recruiting, such as Corporate America Supports You, or CASI, Hire Heroes USA, and others. As Guard and Reserve members can be activated for deployment or mobilization at any time, it is important for managers and HR personnel to become familiar with their company's policies on military activation and deployment. If your company currently lacks these policies, you can find useful information and helpful guidance on the Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve ESGR website, www.esgr.mil. One important topic that should be addressed in the company's policies are well-defined guidelines and procedures for when Guard and Reserve members are activated for service. An example company military leave policy can be found in the Veterans Employment Toolkit at the va.gov website. Another resource is the VA's handout titled Planning for Military Leave for Employees in the Reserve and National Guard, also found in the Veterans Employment Toolkit. Now let's go over how to train your staff on these policies. Following your organization's guidelines, you should conduct periodic training for managers and employees about the employer's and employees' rights, responsibilities, and company procedures related to military service commitments. Educate supervisors and management personnel regarding their obligations as detailed in the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Act, often referred to as USERRA. You can learn more about USERRA by taking the Psych Armor course USERRA, Hiring and Retaining Guard and Reserve. Many of the companies in the VA study found it helpful to offer all of their employees a training program that provided a general overview of military service and included topics such as military organization, rank structure, and unique aspects of the military environment and culture. A good overview course for those employees not familiar with military service is the Psych Armor course, 15 Things Veterans Want You to Know. This company-wide training can greatly assist in closing the gap in civilian employees' understanding of the military and can increase their ability to effectively relate to veteran and Guard and Reserve co-workers. Another best practice for employers gleaned from the VA study was implementing a structured and recurring program to educate Guard and Reserve member employees and their families regarding applicable policies and available benefits. When members of the National Guard and Reserve are called to active duty, we often refer to this as mobilization and deployment. Mobilization is the administrative process of moving a service member from an inactive to an active military service status. Deployment is the movement of a service member to the location in which they will perform their military duty, which often is overseas. When an employee is called to active service, an employer can support them by, if possible, paying the difference between their military and civilian salaries, continuing company benefits for them and their family members, ensuring the employee being called to active duty is aware of the company's pay and benefit policies for National Guard and Reserve service members, and by providing job-protected time away from work. USERRA states the cumulative length of time that an individual may be absent from work for military duty and retain reemployment rights is up to 5 years. Both the employee and manager should be well versed in their rights and responsibilities as it relates to USERRA. It is also important for the employer to show support for the employee's family, especially when the reserve or guard member is called to active duty for an extended period. During these deployments or mobilizations, families can be under a great amount of stress. Support from the company will go a long way in helping the family through this challenging period. An employer can offer to support the family, with their consent, by maintaining contact with both the mobilized service member and their family. This contact can be through email and/or care packages. It's a great idea for supervisors to personally contact family members periodically, invite families to company social events and other functions, and to have an assistance program or affinity group that includes families of National Guard and Reserve employees. When an employee returns to work from their service obligation, especially from an overseas deployment, there may be a transition period during which the employee readjusts back to a civilian environment. The most critical element in supporting this transition is maintaining a mentorship or peer-to-peer program. Mentorship programs have been proven to be highly effective at providing assistance and guidance for returning service members. More information on mentorship can be found in Psych Armor's course, Veteran Mentor Program. Creation of an affinity or networking group for veterans and National Guard and Reserve members is another critical element that's often recommended as a best practice. Creating opportunities for peer support in the workplace among those who previously served or are still serving as National Guard and Reserve members is an important step for a company to take in creating a corporate culture that is committed to their success. Organizations have also found the following practices helpful during an employee's return from active service. Offer additional unpaid time off before the employee returns to work. Offer flexible work arrangements during the transition period. Place the returning employee back into the same position they had prior to deployment or into one that is similar to their previous role. And finally, offer refresher training if needed. Now that we have covered how to support an employee when they are activated and upon their return, let's discuss how to support National Guard and Reserve employees on a regular basis. A best practice noted from the VA-sponsored study involved providing recognition for military service. Some ideas for service recognition include prominently displaying a list of employees who are Guard and Reserve members or veterans and noting those members who are currently deployed. Recognizing and publicizing their dedication and commitment to your business and to our country. Sending company-wide emails from the CEO or senior management acknowledging and thanking employees for their service in the Guard and Reserve, and sending company-wide emails to announce the return of mobilized or deployed employees. Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, or ESGR, is a Department of Defense program to promote cooperation and understanding between Reserve component service members and their civilian employers, and to assist in the resolution of conflicts arising from an employee's military commitments. One of the recommendations from the ESGR office is for an employer to create a Statement of Support program with the goal of encouraging employers to act as advocates for employee participation in the military. To show their support, employers can sign ESGR's Statement of Support for the Guard and Reserve, found on their website. Employers can display the certificate prominently for employees and others to see. Employers signing a statement of support make commitments to the following tenets. We fully recognize, honor, and enforce the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, USERRA. Our managers and supervisors will have the tools they need to effectively manage those employees who serve in the Guard and Reserve. We appreciate the values, leadership, and unique skills service members bring to the workforce and will encourage opportunities to hire members of the Guard and Reserve and veterans. We will continually recognize and support our country's service members and their families in peace, in crisis, and in war. We at Comcast NBC Universal are very proud to support our National Guard and Reserve employees. Here to share our best practices is one of Comcast's strongest supporters of the military community, Melanie Penna.
Hello, I'm Melanie Penna, Senior Vice President for Customer Experience Workforce Alignment at Comcast. I'm here to tell you about an HR program we implemented at Comcast to directly serve our National Guard and Reserve employees called the Military Concierge Service. As you've learned throughout this course, your employees that are in the National Guard and Reserve rely greatly on you as their primary employer to provide the support they need to serve the country to the best of their ability. About 3 years ago, here at Comcast, we polled our Guard and Reserve employees to ask what we could do to serve them better. In addition to some training and benefits needs, they shared with us how difficult it was to navigate the process of activating and returning from military leave of absence. Many, when called to active duty, had questions about payroll or benefits or how they could remain connected to the company. And some complained of inconsistent information being shared with them from different leaders in the business. As a result, we created the Military Concierge Service, an HR-led team dedicated to providing a central point of information and support for employees across the entire company, from HR team members in the field to managers and supervisors, and to our Guard and Reserve employees and their families. This simple but effective initiative ensures we support our employees with consistent benefits and policies, and that their questions are answered quickly and correctly. This service also allows employees and their families, as well as the leadership of our military employees, to focus on what is important during these often stressful and hectic deployments and activations. The concierge has received incredible feedback from our employees who have utilized it. Let me read 2 testimonials we received in the second quarter of 2017. One employee says, "I recently enlisted to the Navy Reserves, and I had multiple questions. The concierge took the time to reach out to me and clarify some of my concerns. I greatly appreciate them going above and beyond. Thank you." Another employee said, "Please continue to use processes currently in use. The concierge was fantastic to work with and willing to not just work with me, but with my spouse as well when I was in training." To learn more about Comcast's military concierge service and our benefits suite specifically for National Guard and Reserve members, visit comcastcareers.com/military.
As we wrap up this course, let's review some of the best practices for employer support of their Guard and Reserve employees. When recruiting, post jobs on military recruiting websites and participate in veteran-oriented job fairs. Be familiar with USERA and your company's military leave policies. Ensure your managers, HR personnel, and National Guard and Reserve members receive recurring training on these topics. Train all employees regarding the unique aspects of military culture. Provide job protection as well as flexibility when a Guard or Reserve member is activated and upon their return from duty. Offer support to the employee's family. The men and women who serve in the Reserve and National Guard are an essential element of our nation's military strength, and they couldn't continue to serve without the support of employers like you. Thank you for taking this course and for everything you do to support your National Guard and Reserve member employees.
If you have any questions or need assistance, go to the PsychArmor website or call the PsychArmor support line at 844-779-2427. Thank you for completing this course and taking that one step further in learning about our American veterans.